And we are back, and there is just 9 more days to go until the end of another Premier League season. But there is still plenty to be decided both this week and next week. This week we could see Manchester City crowned as Premier League champions. We could see Newcastle secure Champions League football for next season, as well as potentially seeing who will end up getting relegated. Obviously, Southampton are already gone. This is going to be a double game week. I'm going to do my predictions for the Wednesday and Thursday games in a separate video. This is just going to be the 10 games for this weekend and Monday night. So before we get into it, as always, my reminder to you guys that if you have enjoyed this series over the course of the season, do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. As I've just said, we've got more videos coming up over the next couple of weeks, and then we've got a load of finals and then international predictions to come up over the summer. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of that content. Let's get into a massive game week 37, and we start off with Tottenham up against Brentford. Now, obviously, the stories around this match are all going to centre on Ivan Toney's 8-month ban from football. FIFA are now apparently going to get involved and extend that ban to a worldwide ban, meaning that he cannot go out on loan to another country for the next 6 months, from the end of the season until January. So it looks like Toney's going to be out for a very, very long while for Brentford. Probably not going to see him again until, well, I'd say 10 months, because it's going to take him a while to get back up to full fitness since he's not even allowed to train. They go up against a Tottenham side that are still going to be looking for some form of European football for next season. Obviously, a load of speculation around Harry Kane once again. This game itself, I think the loss of Ivan Toney is going to do one of two things. It's either going to sort of cement the fate of this game in the fact that Tottenham will just win because Brentford just aren't as good without Ivan Toney, or it's going to solidify the players, get them together and give them the opportunity to get the win, to fight for places themselves. And look, they didn't have Ivan Toney last week, and they still performed very, very well. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Tottenham, but I think they can't let their season completely fizzle out and die. I think in their final home game, they're going to do everything in their power to secure a half-decent place. And, you know, like I said, they're going to be trying to convince Harry Kane to stay. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Spurs. Like I said, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think in the end, Tottenham will get the win. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and we start with Bournemouth and Manchester United in a game that, quite frankly, Manchester United have to win. We've spoken about it a lot over the last few weeks. Manchester United have to win 2 of their remaining 3 games to secure Champions League football for next season, unless, of course, Liverpool don't win one of their 2 remaining games. But we can't rely on that to happen. We have to do our own job. And given the fact that Bournemouth are already safe and haven't played particularly well since they secured their safety for next season, I am hoping that that is enough of an opportunity for Manchester United to capitalise on a very good opportunity to get what should be a relatively easy win. It looks like Rashford could be fit again as well. Garnacho looked like a serious threat after coming back from his injury, so I'm expecting the job to be done. I'm going to go for 3-0 to Manchester United. We need to put down a marker, build some momentum ahead of the FA Cup final as well, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that. Next up, it is Fulham and Crystal Palace, and Fulham still have an outside chance of getting European football, even if it's just the Europa Conference. They've been playing very, very well recently. Mitrovic is back once again, and they're up against a Crystal Palace side that have performed very, very well at home since Roy Hodgson took over, but have performed very poorly away from home. So I'm expecting Fulham to get the win here. I think it should be relatively comfortable. I'm going to go for 3-1. It's been a pretty common scoreline for them recently, but I just think Fulham have been playing such good football recently, and I expect them to do over Crystal Palace this time out. Back to the Champions League race, and it's Liverpool up against Aston Villa. Now, Villa themselves, like we said, are one of the many teams still fighting for European places, be it Europa League or Europa Conference League. Liverpool are, of course, going to do everything in their power to secure Champions League football. That said, Aston Villa's form has been very inconsistent recently, and Liverpool's form has been absolutely immaculate, and I don't need to keep saying it, but I expect Liverpool to win every single game. That, of course, includes this one, and to be honest, I'm going to go for 3-0 to Liverpool. I just think Villa's season is just tailing out. They had that really, really good run, but it's just starting to tail out as they come to the end of the season, and I just think Liverpool will be too much for them in this game, and I'm going to go for 3-0 to them. The final game of the 3 o'clocks sees the start of the relegation battle for this weekend. It is Wolves against Everton. And again, a really, really tight one to call. Wolves have played okay recently. Everton have had a massive upturn of form in the last couple of games. Obviously, that 5-1 win against Brighton. They put up a hell of a fight against Manchester City recently as well. I think they'll get something out of this game. Whether or not it's going to be a win, I'm not so sure. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this one. Could be enough to keep them in the Premier League. It obviously depends what the teams in the relegation zone do this weekend. But for me, if Everton do get the win this weekend, I think they're pretty much uncatchable, and think mathematically they will be uncatchable as well if they do get the win. But I'm just going to go for a draw. As we move into the late kickoff on Saturday, the relegation battle continues, and it's Nottingham Forest hosting Arsenal. Arsenal, of course, have to win, otherwise Manchester City are crowned champions, something that I think we all expect to happen at some point this weekend anyway. Nottingham Forest essentially need to avoid defeat. Same sort of situation as Everton. A win and they're basically safe. A draw is massive for them as well. And it is a draw that I'm going to go for. Their home form has been very, very good this season in Nottingham Forest. I know Arsenal are still going to be fighting for every single point. And I think Arteta will probably still play his full first team for this one, just in case there's some Manchester City slip-ups. But I think Arsenal are gone. I think they've given it everything and they're just not quite got enough left to put up any more fight, if I'm honest. And like I say, I'm going to go for a draw. I'll go for 2-2. I think Arsenal will still score goals, but I think Nottingham Forest will also score going the other way. Sticking with the relegation battle once again, as we go to the first game of Sunday, it's West Ham United against Leeds United. Mathematically, West Ham are still actually in the relegation fight, but it's very, very near impossible that they go down. Leeds United, of course, have to get the win if they're going to stand much chance of staying up. They do have a home game on the final game of the season, though, so you just never know. West Ham, of course, won their place in the Europa Conference final last night. A great performance from them to keep AZ Alkmaar out, and then, of course, get the goal at the end of the game to secure it once and for all. I think they're going to be sort of like half and half, changing their teams around. They're not going to risk losing key players for the Europa Conference final. However, I think they're still going to play a fairly decent team, and they're still relatively good at home. Leeds are going to have to pull off an incredible performance to get a result in this game, and I don't think they're going to muster one up. I'm going to go for 3-1 to West Ham. We shall see. If West Ham do make wholesale changes, there is a very good opportunity for Leeds to get a result here. But for me, West Ham will end up taking this one. Next up, it is Brighton taking on already relegated Southampton. Brighton, of course, on the receiving end of a, I would say, relatively harsh scoreline last night. They were giving it their absolute all. They were still technically in the Champions League fight going into last night's game. They now, sadly, will not be able to do it unless Liverpool lose all their remaining games and Man United lose all their remaining games and Brighton win their remaining games, which is also unlikely given the fact they have to play City as well. I think they'll win this one, though. They are up against, like I say, already relegated Southampton. There's no pressure on them. Brighton will obviously be playing for every single point they can as they continue to fight for their relative European potential spots. I'm going to go for 4-1 to Brighton. I still think Southampton will potentially nick a goal, but I expect Brighton to win this one relatively easily, seeing off their Southern Coast rivals. Next up, we have the technical main event of the weekend. It is Manchester City taking on Chelsea. Regardless of what happens in the Nottingham Forest Arsenal game, assuming that Arsenal win, if Manchester City beat Chelsea, they will be your Premier League champions for this season, and I think we all expect that to be the case. I'm going to go for 3-0 to Man City. Chelsea have played a little bit better recently, but even with it being better offensively, they then started leaking goals back the other way, and a 2-2 draw at home to Nottingham Forest is not a good look for a side that are still looking to find some sort of form before the end of the season. And if City play to their absolute best, if they put in any sort of a performance like they did against Real Madrid, it could be a very, very long night for Chelsea. And Chelsea will know themselves, they've had games like 8-0 to win Premier League titles. You just never know. It could be that sort of result if Manchester City play the way they have and Chelsea play the way they have. But for me, I'm just going to go for a safe win for Manchester City. 3-0, securing them the Premier League title. The final game of the first part of Gameweek 37 will be Newcastle United taking on Leicester City in the Monday Night Football. Newcastle just have to win this game to secure Champions League football at St James's Park for next season. Leicester have to win or they are in deep, deep doo-doo. Whether or not they can potentially get a draw, I suppose it depends on the other results at Everton, Forest and Leeds. But I think Leicester really, really do have to get the win. And they've got the quality. Don't get me wrong. They have so many good players, Leicester City. But it's just not been happening for them recently. And even though they've been scoring goals in their last few games, they are absolutely shipping goals for fun. And unfortunately for them, Newcastle have been scoring goals for fun. And I think that's the way this game is going to go. I'm going to go for 4-2 to Newcastle United. I can definitely see Leicester getting some goals. Newcastle's defensive record, despite being so good throughout the season, has actually been relatively poor the last couple of months. So I think Leicester will grab themselves a couple of goals, but Leicester can't keep continuing to defend the way they are and expect to have any chance of staying up. And I just think Newcastle will capitalise on their poor defending. And it will mean that Newcastle secure Champions League football and Leicester will be all but relegated going into the final weekend of the season. That is going to be it for today. As always, you guys let me know in the comments your thoughts about everything that could happen this weekend, your thoughts on everything that has happened over the course of the last week with the Champions League, Europa League and Conference, and that game between Newcastle and Brighton last night. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I will see you very, very soon.